I I was born in the town of Delburn in Alberta, and I went back with my parents to China when I was 6 years old, and then I stayed in China there and learned Chinese until I was 13 years old. And then I came back to Canada with one of my distant uncle. And then I came to the town of Bellevue in Alberta, where my distant uncle was running a restaurant. And then I learned my English there from 13 till 19 years old. And then I went back to China to get married in 1939. So after I got married in China, and the World War, started then, and then all the transportation and things all, stopped. You see, I can't come back to Canada, so I had to stay in China until 1947. After the Second World War II. And then I came back to China in 1947. So after I came back, and then I stayed in the town of Bellevue there and applied my wife to come over, because you see, I was born in Canada, and then I can apply my wife to come over right away.
That must have been a very joyous occasion.
And then my wife came over in 1948. And then we, with my daughter. She was 2 years old then. And then I stayed in Bellevue, Alberta for about a year, I think. And then I came back to Vancouver in 1949. And then I joined in a partnership in a restaurant in 736 Main Street. The restaurant called New Station Cafe. And then I worked in the restaurant and managed the restaurant for 7 years. And then I thought I should make some change. Because I was graduated in the bookkeeping course in the University of Fengchao, you see. So I know some bookkeeping. So I brushed my up bookkeeping, and accounting at the Duffy School in Vancouver. After I graduated, and then I found a job in the Pacific Produce Company. So I worked there with the Pacific Produce Company for 29 years until I retired. It was in 1987 when I retired.
So you said you've been a very long time resident of Canada. Our book deals a lot about the discrimination of the Chinese people in Canada. As we know, the Chinese only got the right to vote in the federal elections in 1940, in the the right to vote, after the war,
Yeah.
and gained a lot of the rights after the war. Given your experience in Canada, do you, this might be very hard, but what did you feel about the discrimination then? How were you treated?
Yeah, I think the discrimination against the Chinese, because you see, they kind of like the Chinese came over way back in the 1980s or 1890s, and they built the Pacific Railway, you know,
Yeah.
to continue the east and the west, so the transportation would be, good for the Canada, especially for the business and commercial things, you see. So at that time, the Chinese was working very hard to build the railway, and during that time, and a lot of Chinese died, and happened, and but since then, Canada treated the Chinese a little more, better. See. So after that, then the Chinese in Canada would be, better.
How were you treated then?
Well, I wasn't, you see, I think it's, the same thing, same way as the other Chinese.
So were they treated badly prior to the war?
Well, it's getting better. They treated us.
I see. So our book is also about the social changes in Chinatown. How would you say that Chinatown changed from the time you came from Alberta to Chinatown to now?
Well, at first in Chinatown, the Chinese is very few. They have families here, see, because at that time they allow the Chinese, families to come over. Yeah. So at that time, the Chinatown, most of them is the all Chinese without families. You see? But after the World War II, and then they allowed those old Chinese apply their families to come over. And then so the Chinatown starting to grow a little bit, more Chinese coming in, and more families coming in, and then the Chinatown started to grow.
Would you say that there are a lot of the old Chinatown residents moved away to other parts of Vancouver or to Richmond or to other neighborhoods like that? I see.
That's after the World War II, and more of Chinese family came over, and then they start to spread all over the area in Vancouver.
Would you say?
But at first, most of them, they start to live in close to Chinatown area.
I see. So there are a lot of people who lived close to Chinatown but moved away.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, because of their schooling and the Chinatown stopped growing, you see. So they start to move out to the countryside, like you see, to other districts.
I see. I think this is good. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. So the second question is, do you identify yourself as Canadian or Chinese or both? So are
Both.
you? I see.
Chinese Canadian.
So what do you think of that designation? Do you think it captures, the tradition of, like, your cultural traditions and, your citizenship in Canada?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Canada, so I'm, a Canadian citizen. From then on, you see.
I see. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.